Is woke parenting basic child abuse? The first three questions that a woke progressive parent will have to face prove that it is in fact at the very least child abuse. Hi folks, I'm Douglas Kruger, author of the global new book, Political Correctness Does More Harm Than Good. Welcome to Breaking Woke, how to identify, debunk and dismantle dangerous ideas. To my great astonishment, I still seem to have 2 or 3 woke, liberal, progressive friends on social media. They're kind of clinging in there by their fingernails, and God bless them for their persistence. So I get to see how the thinking goes, and they unpack it in front of me. I believe my observation on watching these people is that it is done for personal plaudits. It's the ultimate virtue signaling. They do these things not because they believe deeply in them, but because they want to show off how woke and how liberal they are to their friends. And I think that's really the wrong orientation when you're raising children. You do things that are even unpopular for your children if it is the right thing to do. You don't use them as a social experiment in order to make yourself look good and to have your liberal friends go, "Ark, ark, ark, so amazing." So here are the first 3 inevitable questions that you are going to face as a woke parent. And you tell me why these are not child abuse at the very least, at a bare minimum. The very first one, are you going to keep your child or are you going to kill it? If you are woke, then you believe abortion is morally acceptable, and you will have to play interesting word games in order to justify that to yourself. You're going to distinguish between a wanted child who is a baby and an unwanted child who is a meaningless collection of cells. So the very first choice you face as a woke parent is kill your child or not. Life and death. That's your very first parenting choice. Now, of course, this is a choice that harkens back to a pre-scientific era. Some 100 years ago, we were not able to look into the womb and observe this meaningless collection of cells. Today, we don't have that excuse. We can look into the womb, and what do we see there? We see a child who plays with its toes, who sucks its thumb, who sometimes cries itself to sleep. That is what we see when we look into the womb these days. But as a woke parent, you'll have to ignore that, because the social trend is to start with the question, will I kill my child, or will I let it live? How are you not a child abuser? Question number 2. Once your child is born, you're now going to have to decide whether you're going to follow 65 million years of evolutionary biology and provide that child with gender cues for their gender, or whether you're going to say gender is a social construct based on the fraudulent science of Dr. John Money, whose first experiment with 2 children led to both children committing suicide after he made 2 brothers interact with one another in sexual role-playing. That is the science on which we believe the idea that gender is a social construct. Did you know that? You know it now, and you have no excuse. But let's say that you've decided that this is correct, that gender is a complete social construct, and you're going to let them decide. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that every time your small boy feels a little blue, a little sad, a little creative, a little artistic, that you're going to start experimenting in your own mind with the idea, maybe he's a girl? And then, because your woke liberal friends back it up with their articles and their videos about it, and references to doctors within sociology departments, not doctors who actually know what they're doing, but doctors within sociology departments who spread this propaganda, and you find so much acceptance for this idea that you start whispering it into your child's ear. My boy, you seem to be very sad. You seem to be feeling emotional. You seem to be gentle. Do you think maybe you might be a girl? And because your child looks to you for guidance and social cues, your child will start playing with that idea and playing with confirmation bias. Now maybe everything that your child does that is a little creative, a little artistic, will be confirmation for your child that maybe he's a girl. And you lead him in this direction because your woke friends will give you so many brownie points for this. Look, I'm raising my child gender-free, ark, ark, ark. And then what do you have to do? You have to flood your child's body with foreign hormones, because that's the morally correct thing to do. And then you have to mutilate their genitals, because that's the morally correct thing to do. You will have to do those things if you lead them down that path. Now, 97% and more of these kids, if left alone, grow out of gender dysphoria. Except if you, as the woke parent, lead them in that direction and flood their body with foreign hormones and mutilate their genitals. How are you not a child abuser? I would love to hear your answer to this one. Are you not a child abuser because feelings? Are you not a child abuser because all of your liberal friends think this is wonderful? Is that the reason you are not a child abuser? How extraordinary. Example of your child abuse number 3. Once your kid gets a little older, and if you've decided to let them live and not kill them, and if you haven't mutilated their genitals and flooded their body with hormones, the next thing that's going to come up is whether or not they are a victim or an oppressor. The great woke project right now is to divide people into their racial demographics and then either vilify or deify. So if your child is white, are you then going to teach them all about how bad their history is and how their only role in the world is as a self-flagellator and apologist for their kind? Or if your child is black, are you going to teach them that they are a hopeless victim and that nothing they do will change their scenario because it's utterly hopeless? They are systemically oppressed. And then in either case, you're going to teach the cartoon version, the caricature version of history. So what you've done in either case is you've either created a child who is born into shame, born into an original sin for which they must atone for their entire lives. There is no escape. Or you have created a child who is born into victimhood and oppression out of which they cannot escape. Wow. Either way, explain to me how that is not child abuse. And you will have to face those questions if you are a woke parent. That is the woke project today. So congratulations on making a parenting choice that causes your woke progressive friends to go, so wonderful, so enlightened, at the cost of your child. What cost to your child? Well, choice number 1, life or death. You might kill your kid because they're inconvenient. Choice number 2, you might mutilate their body because you have introduced them to this gender nonsense which is not science, which is not settled in any way, shape or form, which is based on the most fraudulent science the world has ever seen. But you're going to start whispering that in their ears like Grima Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. And if they believe in it, then you're going to flood their body with foreign hormones and you're going to mutilate their genitals. And then choice number 3, you're going to divide them up into victim or oppressor and teach them what their role is based on their skin color. So it's life and death, bodily mutilation, racism. Those are your first 3 issues as a woke parent. Or you can ignore the trends. I, for example, know exactly what my progressive liberal friends are going to believe to the core of their being next week, because I will listen to the same liberal talk shows or read the same liberal op-eds this week, and I will learn at the same time as them what their new value system is. What does that tell you? It tells you that it's a fad. It tells you that it is not real. Your child is precious. They only exist because of you. They rely on you, they depend on you. They are not a social experiment, and they are not there to give you credits from your progressive friends. Do the right thing instead. Once you know better, you can do better. I'm Douglas Kruger, author of the global new book, Political Correctness Does More Harm Than Good. This is Breaking Woke.